Yes.
You make a mistake on Twitter, or even something that isn't a mistake, and you can pay what feels to be a pretty high price.
Right.
Now, whether it is a high price or not is hard to tell, because Twitter is so weirdly fictional. It's so hard to get a grasp on exactly what's going on.
Well, it's also your comprehension of what is your emotional reaction to people that you don't know being mean to you. Like, this is like, what is that price?
Well,
and some people want to dismiss that as being just nothing. It's not that big a deal, but it is a big deal. It causes people to commit suicide. I mean, it has, absolutely. Bullying online has caused many people to commit suicide.
Well, the thing is, the weird thing about that online communication is that, like, I find that I tend to react to a negative Twitter comment as if it's someone sitting across from me talking to me that I know. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not. And I don't even know if the person is real, because the accounts are often anonymous. You're very sensitive to criticism,
right,
because it's rare and because you might be wrong, especially if there's a lot of people criticizing you, because you kind of have to be psychopathic in order just to brush that off. It's like, well, 100 people think I'm wrong. There's nothing to that. It's like, well, if it's 100 people out of 100 million, but you can't tell on Twitter,
right.
then it's irrelevant. But if it's a mob of 100 people that show up outside your house, which is quite kind of what Twitter feels like, then you think, well, God, I must have done something wrong, because otherwise why would all these people be here?
Right.
And I think that's why so many people are driven to apologize, when they do something on Twitter or do something, and then the Twitter mobs go after them. They think, oh God, I must have done something wrong. I should do some soul searching. And so some of that's not even fear. It's more like, it's in a sense, it's a morality that's misplaced. I mean, I've almost completely stopped reading Twitter comments in the last month, and I'm definitely better for it.
Yeah, it makes you way happier, right?
Oh yeah, it's too much. It's too much.
Crazy.
It's too crazy.
Well,
yeah.
What is your number up to now? The number of followers you
have? About 1 million on Twitter.
Yeah, that's when it's about time to get out of Dodge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm still following people and reading what people are posting, but no, the comments, I'm just.
It's not worth it.
No, it's not. And I think it does have something to do with the technology itself. Like, I do believe that small limit facilitates angry, impulsive responding.
The good thing about Twitter is it makes you boil down what you're trying to say to a very succinct thing. Although I do enjoy when someone has a good Twitter thread. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a really good Twitter thread. What was that gentleman's name? Respectable Lawyer?
Respectable Law.
Respectable Law. He wrote a long history of the Sentinelese people that's that uncontacted tribe in the Indian Sea, where this gentleman went there to try to convert them to Christianity, and he shot them full of arrows. Yeah, and he wrote this long history of these people and what they've had to endure with being, a few people going to them and doing some awful things and diseases and stuff like that. So I enjoy when someone will do that, like these long, like every now and then someone will use it in a novel way. I really like that.
We don't exactly know what motivates people to respond on Twitter, and it might be that the fundamental motivation for a Twitter response is anger.
Yeah.
Rather than the desire to share something, because we don't know anything about how these new communication techniques function psychologically.
Right.
Like, maybe Twitter is skewed 90% towards people who are impulsively angry at that moment. It could easily be. We don't know. Like, if you're driving in your car and someone cuts you off, you curse, or at least I do. And it's often a situational issue rather than a personality flaw on the part of the other driver, even though it's easy to assume that. But you respond impulsively. I mean, God only knows how much of our social media networks are set up to differentially reward impulsive behavior. And it's also not that easy to hold people accountable in some sense. And maybe there's some utility to that, but with anonymous accounts and all of that, the anonymity is also problematic, because it certainly enables people to allow their worst to manifest themselves.
It gives you the opportunity to explore controversial ideas without blowback.
True.
If it's used correctly.
Well, that's it. I think that's true. I think there's some utility. I mean, I don't think that it should be forbidden. Well, like most things, it has its advantages and its disadvantages.
Yeah, like most things. It's not entirely negative to be anonymous.
Hey, so I figured something out that I thought I'd tell you about. The negative comments that are part of social media seem to be just as potent as negative comments in real life, but the positive comments don't seem to be as positive as the positive comments in real life.
Yes.
Like, and they don't seem as real, And I guess
Right.
that's partly because we're wired, to be more sensitive to threat and to negative emotion because we can be hurt.
Well, it's also healthy too to not stroke your ego too much.
The technological pressure that's being put on the mainstream media is driving extreme political views as a means of gathering the attention of a shrinking market share.
That's a very interesting take on it, and I wonder how detrimental that is to us as a whole, because we are constantly dealing with this clickbait nonsense headline, and everything is a dispute, everything's a war.
Yeah.
Everything's
Well, it's nerve-wracking.
Yes.
I mean, I noticed this years ago because I really stopped watching the news 25 years ago, although I've been heavily involved in it the last 2 years. 24-hour news cycle, and it's produced by everyone, whether they're informed or not, and it's really high emotion, and I think that is making things look a lot worse to us than they actually are.
I think it's also similar to what we were talking about earlier when it comes to reading comments on Instagram or Twitter. I just think there's just an amount of data that's incomprehensible. I don't think you can handle it. I don't think you can navigate it. You can't navigate that many relationships. I mean, these are the reason why we have this Dunbar's number in our head. If you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people, in your case, 1 million followers that are constantly interacting with you, it's going to fucking drive you mad.
Yeah. Well, you don't even know what to do with it. Because I don't even know what my ethical obligation is to my Twitter followers, because there's 1 million people following me.
You can't
so
react to all of them.
No, definitely. Well, certainly I know one limitation, which is that having it drive me insane is probably not a good outcome for anyone.
Also overwhelming is just the sheer amount of information that's available constantly about everything. There's 1 million stories every day about every single thing that's going on in your life.
Well, everywhere on the whole planet.
And how are you supposed to navigate that? How are you supposed to get through life and concentrate on things that are truly meaningful for you in the present moment without being completely detached from the outside world? It's this balance that people try to find that is so elusive. It's so hard to figure out how much to watch. How much of this political process do I pay attention to?
Well, that's the big technological challenge.
Yes.
I mean, we thought, when I was a kid, we thought, oh my God, kids are sitting in front of the television 4 hours a night. It's like, well, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, right. Now it's all day long.
No kidding.
With their phone. We have a rule at our house: you can't use a phone. Like, once you get inside the house, there's no phone. So their friends come over the house, they want to constantly be on their phone, and we say you can't do that. And they look at you like, what are you talking about? This is my life. My life is my phone. They want to make Twitter posts and Instagram, and they want to do Facebook, and they want to Snapchat with each other with bunny ears on, and these kids are just doing this all day long.
Well, and they are mastering the technology. That's the other thing. It's not surprising that they're trying to adapt to it. But
it's happening at a really early age. Because if you're giving your kid a phone, you're not putting any parental filters on it. You're allowing that kid to have full access to Google and the World Wide Web, and they're just going to...
If you give your kid a phone and you don't think they'll know how to use the phone better than you within a year, you're a fool.
It's true.
They're gonna have that thing figured out in ways that you haven't even imagined. So you're not controlling it. That's for sure.
It is a very extraordinarily unprecedented time to sort of navigate this world.